The 2-year-old baby keeps pointing at his father's coffin. What happens next is shocking. The crisp autumn air in Harmony Creek, Ohio, carried a somber weight. A small crowd gathered at the Harmony Creek Community Church, their faces etched with grief. Inside, a polished mahogany coffin rested before the altar, adorned with a spray of white lily. Samuel Miller, a beloved resident of the town, was being laid to rest. Clara, Samuel's wife, sat in the front pew, her eyes red and swollen. Beside her sat their 2-year-old daughter, Lucy. Unaware of the finality of the occasion, Lucy fidgeted in her mother's arms, occasionally babbling and pointing at the colorful stained glass windows. The service proceeded, the pastor's comforting words echoing through the church. Friends and neighbors shared anecdotes about Samuel, his infectious laughter, his willingness to lend a hand, his love for the community. He was a man who would be sorely missed. As the mourners filed past the coffin after the service, offering their condolences to Clara, Lucy began to act strangely. She wriggled out of her mother's grasp and toddled towards a dark corner of the church, near the storage closet. She pointed at the shadows, her small voice echoing in the quiet church. "Daddy," she said, her brow furrowed. "Daddy trapped. Help Daddy." Clara, preoccupied with her grief, initially dismissed Lucy's behavior as a child's imagination. But Lucy persisted, her cries growing louder. "Daddy in there," she insisted, pointing at the corner. "Help Daddy, please." A ripple of unease spread through the remaining mourners. Samuel's cousin, Henry, who had been standing nearby, shifted uncomfortably. He approached Clara, his voice strained. "Clara, maybe we should take Lucy home. It's been a long day for her." Clara, exhausted and emotionally drained, agreed. She scooped Lucy up in her arms, trying to soothe her. But Lucy continued to point back at the corner, her cries echoing in the now nearly empty church. Henry, seemingly anxious to leave, ushered Clara and Lucy out of the church. As they walked towards their car, Henry brought up the topic of Samuel's house. "Clara," he began, "Samuel, well, he had some debts. We might need to consider selling the house to settle them." Clara, still reeling from the day's events, simply nodded. She wasn't thinking about finances at that moment. Her mind was consumed by grief and a growing unease about Lucy's strange behavior. Something felt off. Back at the Miller house, Clara tried to make sense of the day's events. Lucy, finally calmed down, was playing quietly in her room. But Clara couldn't shake the image of Lucy pointing at the dark corner of the church, her cries for help echoing in her ears, and Henry's mention of Samuel's debts. It seemed oddly timed. A seed of suspicion began to sprout in Clara's mind. Had Samuel's death been as straightforward as everyone believed? The days following Samuel's funeral were a blur for Clara. The house felt empty without him, his absence a constant ache in her heart. Friends and neighbors brought food and offered their support, but nothing could fill the void he had left behind. Amidst her grief, Clara couldn't shake the unsettling feeling about Samuel's death. Lucy's persistent claims about her father being trapped in the church corner continued to haunt her, and Henry's eagerness to discuss selling the house just hours after the funeral struck her as suspicious. She started to question the circumstances surrounding Samuel's passing. Samuel had always been a healthy man. His sudden heart attack, as the doctor had stated, seemed unlikely. Clara remembered the last time she saw Samuel alive. He had been working in the garden, full of energy and plans for the future. There was no indication of any health problems. Clara decided to confide in her closest friend, Martha. Martha, a retired nurse, had known Samuel for years. She was a sensible woman, and Clara trusted her judgment. Over a cup of tea, Clara recounted the events of the funeral, Lucy's strange behavior, and Henry's talk about finances. Martha listened intently, her brow furrowed. "Clara," she said, "I'm not one to jump to conclusions, but something does seem amiss. Samuel's heart attack, it just doesn't sound right. And Henry's so quick to talk about money." Martha suggested they visit the doctor who had signed Samuel's death certificate. Perhaps he could shed some light on the cause of death. Clara agreed. She needed answers. The next day, Clara and Martha went to see Dr. Evans. They explained their concerns and asked for more details about Samuel's heart attack. Dr. Evans, a busy man, seemed dismissive of their questions. He reiterated that Samuel had died of a heart attack, a common occurrence for men his age. Clara pressed him further, asking if any tests had been conducted. Dr. Evans admitted that no autopsy had been performed. There was no need, he said. The cause of death was clear. Clara and Martha left the doctor's office feeling more confused than ever. They had hoped for some clarity, but Dr. Evans's responses only deepened their suspicions. Something wasn't adding up. As they walked back to Clara's house, Martha suggested they talk to the undertaker. Perhaps he had noticed something unusual about Samuel's body. It was a long shot, but Clara was desperate for any clue. At the Harmony Creek funeral home, they spoke to Mr. Johnson, the undertaker. He remembered Samuel well. "A fine man," he said. "It's always hard to see someone go so young." Clara explained their concerns about Samuel's sudden death. Mr. Johnson listened patiently. He then recalled something that had struck him as odd. "When I was preparing Mr. Miller's body," he said, "I noticed a small mark on his neck. It looked like a puncture wound." Clara's heart skipped a beat. A puncture wound. What could that mean? She thanked Mr. Johnson and left the funeral home with Martha, her mind racing. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together, but the picture was still far from clear. The mark on Samuel's neck, combined with Lucy's cries and Henry's financial motives, painted a disturbing picture. Clara knew she had to dig deeper. She had to find out the truth about what happened to Samuel. Clara returned home, her mind swirling with the information she had gathered. The puncture wound on Samuel's neck, the doctor's dismissive attitude, Henry's eagerness to sell the house, it all pointed to something more sinister than a simple heart attack. She felt a growing sense of dread, a feeling that she was stepping into a dark and unknown territory. She looked at Lucy, playing innocently with her toys, oblivious to the turmoil surrounding her father's death. Clara felt a surge of protectiveness. She had to find the truth, not just for Samuel, but for Lucy as well. That evening, Clara decided to do some investigating of her own. She started by going through Samuel's papers, searching for anything that might shed light on his financial situation. She knew he had been a responsible man, not one to accumulate debts. Henry's claims seemed increasingly suspicious. As she sifted through the documents, she found something that made her blood run cold. A life insurance policy, taken out just a few months prior, with a substantial payout, and the beneficiary, Henry. Clara's heart pounded in her chest. This was no longer just about suspicion, it was about motive. Henry had a clear financial incentive to see Samuel gone. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, revealing a disturbing picture of greed and betrayal. She thought back to the funeral, to Henry's nervous demeanor, his constant fidgeting, his eagerness to take Lucy and Clara home, his insistence on discussing the house sale. It all made sense now. Henry had been trying to cover his tracks. Clara knew she couldn't confront Henry directly. She needed proof, solid evidence to take to the authorities. She decided to confide in Martha again. Martha, with her connections in the community, might be able to help her uncover the truth. The next day, Clara met with Martha at a local diner. She shared her findings, the life insurance policy, the puncture wound, Henry's suspicious behavior. Martha listened, her face grim. "Clara," she said, "this is serious. We need to be careful. If Henry is involved, he could be dangerous." Martha suggested they contact a private investigator, someone who could discreetly look into Samuel's death and Henry's activities. Clara agreed. She didn't know who else to turn to. Martha recommended a retired police officer, a man named Jack Riley, who had a reputation for being thorough and discreet. They met with Riley that afternoon, explaining the situation and their suspicions. Riley listened carefully, his eyes narrowed. "I've seen cases like this before," he said. "Greed can drive people to do terrible things." He agreed to take the case, promising to look into Samuel's death and Henry's background. He warned Clara and Martha to be cautious and not to confront Henry directly. Their safety could be at risk. Clara left the meeting feeling a mix of hope and fear. Hope that the truth would finally come to light, and fear of what that truth might be. She knew she was walking a dangerous path, but she was determined to see it through. She owed it to Samuel, and she owed it to Lucy. Back home, Clara held Lucy close, her heart aching. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched, that Henry was lurking in the shadows, waiting to make his next move. She knew she had to be strong, for Lucy's sake. She had to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Jack Riley, the private investigator, began his work diligently. He started by reviewing the official police report on Samuel's death, noting the doctor's conclusion of a heart attack. He then visited the Harmony Creek Cemetery, where Samuel was buried, taking photographs of the grave and the surrounding area. Riley's next step was to delve into Henry's background. He discovered that Henry had been struggling financially for years, accumulating significant debts. He had even borrowed money from Samuel on several occasions, which Samuel had reluctantly given him. This information further solidified Clara's suspicions. Riley also obtained a copy of the life insurance policy, confirming that Henry was the sole beneficiary. The timing of the policy, taken out just months before Samuel's death, raised a red flag. It appeared Henry had been planning this for a while. Meanwhile, Clara tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy for Lucy's sake. She took her to the park, read her stories, and tried to shield her from the dark cloud that hung over their lives. But the fear and uncertainty were always present, lurking in the back of her mind. One evening, Riley contacted Clara. He had some disturbing news. He had spoken to several people in the community, and some had mentioned seeing Henry visiting Samuel late at night in the weeks leading up to his death. These visits seemed secretive, and no one knew what they were about. Riley also informed Clara that he had obtained Samuel's medical records. He had shown them to a medical examiner, who had expressed serious doubts about the heart attack diagnosis. The examiner pointed out the puncture wound on Samuel's neck, which had not been mentioned in the official report. He suggested that Samuel might have been poisoned or injected with something that mimicked a heart attack. Clara's worst fears were confirmed. Samuel hadn't died of natural causes, he had been murdered. And the prime suspect was his own cousin, Henry. Riley advised Clara to stay away from Henry and to avoid any contact with him. He was clearly dangerous and capable of anything. Riley was working on gathering more evidence, but he needed time. Clara felt a wave of anger and grief wash over her. How could Henry do this to Samuel? How could he betray their family in such a horrific way? She vowed to see justice served, not only for Samuel but also for Lucy. The next day, Clara received a call from Henry. He said he wanted to discuss the sale of the house. Clara, trying to remain calm, agreed to meet him at a local coffee shop. She knew she had to be careful. Henry was likely suspicious, and any wrong move could put her and Lucy in danger. At the coffee shop, Henry was his usual charming self, but Clara could see the nervousness in his eyes. He talked about the house, the debts, and how selling it would be the best thing for everyone. Clara played along, pretending to agree with him. As they talked, Clara noticed Henry kept glancing at his watch. He seemed anxious to leave. She realized he was probably meeting someone else, perhaps an accomplice. Clara decided to take a risk. She excused herself to use the restroom and, while there, discreetly called Riley. She told him about her meeting with Henry and his nervous behavior. Riley told her to stay calm and not to do anything rash. He was on his way. When Clara returned to the table, Henry was wrapping up the conversation. He seemed relieved that she hadn't suspected anything. They agreed to meet again the following week to finalize the sale of the house. As Clara left the coffee shop, she felt a sense of dread. She knew she was playing a dangerous game, but she was determined to expose Henry's lies and bring him to justice. She had to be strong, for Samuel, for Lucy, and for herself. The following week was agonizing for Clara. She lived in constant fear, knowing Henry was out there, possibly watching her, waiting for the right moment to strike. She tried to act normal, going about her daily routine, but the weight of her secret knowledge was a heavy burden. Jack Riley kept her updated on his investigation. He had uncovered more evidence linking Henry to Samuel's death. Witnesses had placed Henry near Samuel's house on the night of the incident. He had also found records of Henry making several large cash withdrawals in the days following Samuel's death. Riley explained that he was building a strong case against Henry, but he needed more time to gather irrefutable proof. He urged Clara to be patient and to trust the process. The day of the house sale arrived. Clara, trying to appear composed, met Henry at the lawyer's office. She brought Lucy with her, not wanting to leave her alone at home. Henry seemed pleased that she was cooperating. He had no idea that Clara was working with the police to expose his crimes. As they sat in the lawyer's office, going over the paperwork, Clara noticed Henry's hands trembling. He was nervous, likely anticipating the large sum of money he was about to receive. Clara played her part, acting as if she was simply selling the house to settle Samuel's debts. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside the office. Police cars arrived, sirens wailing. Henry's eyes widened in panic. He knew the jig was up. Jack Riley and several police officers entered the lawyer's office. Riley approached Henry, his face grim. "Henry Miller," he said, "you're under arrest for the murder of Samuel Miller." Henry tried to deny the accusations, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. The puncture wound on Samuel's neck, the life insurance policy, the witness testimonies, the cash withdrawals, it all pointed to Henry's guilt. As the police escorted Henry out of the office, Clara felt a wave of relief wash over her. The charade was finally over. The truth was out. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. The police conducted their investigation, gathering more evidence to solidify their case against Henry. Clara gave her statement, recounting the events leading up to Samuel's death and her suspicions about Henry. The community was shocked by the news. Samuel's death was no longer attributed to a heart attack. The truth about Henry's betrayal and greed spread like wildfire through Harmony Creek. Clara received an outpouring of support from friends and neighbors. They were horrified by what Henry had done, and they rallied around Clara and Lucy, offering their help and comfort. The trial was a long and arduous process. The prosecution presented a compelling case against Henry, detailing his financial struggles, his secret visits to Samuel's house, and the suspicious circumstances surrounding Samuel's death. Henry's defense tried to argue that Samuel had died of natural causes, but the medical examiner's testimony about the puncture wound and the possibility of poisoning undermined their case. In the end, the jury found Henry guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. Justice had finally been served. Clara and Lucy could now begin to heal. The shadow of doubt that had hung over their lives was finally lifted. They could remember Samuel for the loving husband and father he was, not for the way he died. With Henry behind bars, Clara and Lucy faced the difficult task of rebuilding their lives. The sense of betrayal and the trauma of Samuel's murder had left deep scars. Clara knew that healing would take time, but she was determined to create a stable and loving environment for Lucy. The community of Harmony Creek continued to support them. Friends and neighbors offered practical help, from babysitting Lucy to helping Clara manage the house. The outpouring of kindness was a testament to the strong bonds that held the community together. Clara focused on Lucy, showering her with love and attention. She enrolled her in a local preschool, hoping to provide her with a sense of normalcy and routine. Lucy, resilient as young children often are, slowly began to adjust to life without her father. She found comfort in her toys, her friends, and the unwavering love of her mother. Clara also sought therapy to help her process the trauma she had experienced. Talking to a therapist allowed her to express her feelings, to grieve for Samuel, and to come to terms with the horrific way he had been taken from them. The therapy sessions were challenging, but they helped Clara to find inner strength and to begin the journey of healing. As time passed, Clara started to rebuild her social life. She reconnected with old friends, joined a book club, and even started dating again. It was a slow process, filled with moments of awkwardness and vulnerability, but Clara was determined to move forward. One of the people who provided Clara with unwavering support was Martha. Their friendship had deepened through the ordeal, and Martha became a constant presence in Clara's life. She was a source of wisdom, comfort, and unwavering support. Martha also helped Clara manage her finances. With Samuel's life insurance money, Clara was able to pay off the house and secure Lucy's future. Martha advised her on how to invest the remaining funds wisely, ensuring that Clara and Lucy would be financially secure. Slowly but surely, Clara began to find joy in life again. She discovered a passion for gardening, transforming her backyard into a vibrant oasis of flowers and vegetables. She also started volunteering at the local animal shelter, finding solace in caring for the abandoned animals. Lucy thrived in her new environment. She made friends at school, developed a love for drawing, and brought endless joy to Clara's life. Seeing Lucy happy and healthy was Clara's greatest reward. Although the pain of Samuel's loss never fully disappeared, Clara learned to live with it. She honored his memory by living a full and meaningful life, one that would make him proud. She taught Lucy about her father, sharing stories and photos, ensuring that Samuel's memory would live on. Clara's journey was one of resilience, courage, and the power of love. She had faced unimaginable tragedy, but she had emerged stronger, more determined, and more compassionate. She had learned the true meaning of community, the importance of friendship, and the enduring power of a mother's love. Years passed, and Harmony Creek continued to be a place of quiet charm and community spirit. Lucy blossomed into a bright and kind young woman, inheriting her father's warm smile and her mother's resilient spirit. She excelled in school, showing a particular aptitude for art. Clara, now a woman in her late 40s, had found a new rhythm in her life. The pain of Samuel's loss had softened with time, replaced by a deep appreciation for the time they had shared. She had built a life filled with purpose, love, and a strong sense of community. Her garden had become her sanctuary, a place where she could connect with nature and find peace. The vibrant blooms were a testament to her own growth and resilience. She often sat there, reflecting on her journey, remembering Samuel, and feeling grateful for the life she had built. Her volunteer work at the animal shelter had also become an important part of her life. She found joy in helping animals in need, offering them love and care. It was a way to give back to the community and to honor Samuel's memory. Clara's relationship with Martha had remained strong over the years. They were more than just friends, they were like family. Martha had been a constant source of support, offering guidance, wisdom, and unconditional love. One sunny afternoon, Clara received a visit from Jack Riley, the private investigator who had helped bring Henry to justice. He had retired a few years prior but still kept in touch with Clara. He had stopped by to share some news. "Clara," he said, "I know it's been a long time, but I wanted to let you know that Henry Miller recently passed away in prison." Clara was quiet for a moment, absorbing the news. She didn't feel any sense of triumph or satisfaction, just a quiet sense of closure. Henry's death brought an end to a dark chapter in her life, but it didn't erase the pain or the memories. "Thank you, Jack," she said. "I appreciate you letting me know." After Jack left, Clara went to her garden. She sat among the flowers, thinking about Samuel, about Henry, about the events that had changed her life forever. She realized that she had come a long way. She had faced unimaginable tragedy, but she had found the strength to overcome it. She had built a beautiful life for herself and Lucy, a life filled with love, purpose, and community. She had honored Samuel's memory by living a life that would make him proud. She had found peace not in forgetting the past, but in embracing the present and looking forward to the future. That evening, Clara and Lucy had dinner together. They talked about Samuel, sharing stories and memories. They laughed, they cried, and they held each other close. They were a family, bound by love, resilience, and the shared experience of overcoming adversity. As Clara looked at Lucy, she saw a reflection of Samuel's spirit and her own strength. She knew that they would be okay. They had each other, and they had the support of their community. They had a future filled with hope, love, and the promise of a new dawn. Years continued to pass, each one adding layers of experience and wisdom to Clara's life. Lucy had grown into a remarkable young woman, her artistic talent blossoming into a promising career. She had moved to Chicago to attend art school, but she remained close to Clara, calling her regularly and visiting whenever she could. Clara's life in Harmony Creek had settled into a comfortable rhythm. She continued to tend her garden, finding solace and joy in the natural world. Her volunteer work at the animal shelter remained a constant, a way to give back to the community and to honor Samuel's love for animals. Martha, her dearest friend, remained a constant presence in her life. They shared meals, went on walks, and simply enjoyed each other's company. Their friendship was a testament to the enduring power of human connection. One spring morning, Clara received a call from Lucy. She had some exciting news. She was engaged to be married to a wonderful young man named David. Clara was overjoyed. She had always wanted Lucy to find happiness and love, and she knew that David was the perfect partner for her. The wedding was a beautiful and joyous occasion. It was held in Harmony Creek, surrounded by family and friends. Clara watched with pride as Lucy walked down the aisle, radiant and happy. She couldn't help but think of Samuel, wishing he could have been there to share in their daughter's joy. As the years passed, Clara embraced the natural cycle of life. She watched as her friends and neighbors grew older, some passing away, others continuing to thrive. She learned to appreciate the preciousness of each moment, the beauty of simple things, and the importance of cherishing the people she loved. One autumn evening, Clara was sitting in her garden, watching the leaves change color. She felt a sense of peace and contentment. She had lived a full and meaningful life, filled with love, loss, resilience, and growth. She had faced tragedy, but she had emerged stronger and more compassionate. She thought about Samuel, remembering his laughter, his kindness, and his love. She realized that his memory lived on, not just in her heart, but in Lucy, in the stories she shared, and in the love that continued to bind their family together. As the sun set, casting long shadows across her garden, Clara felt a sense of gratitude. She was grateful for the life she had been given, for the people she had loved, and for the lessons she had learned. She had come full circle, from the depths of despair to the heights of joy. She had found peace in the rhythm of life, in the beauty of nature, and in the enduring power of love. And as she looked towards the future, she knew that even though life was uncertain, she would face whatever came her way with courage, grace, and an open heart. The circle of life continued, and Clara was ready to embrace whatever the future held.